This video is about an interesting function in Microsoft Excel, that is the indirect function. In this video I will show you how to use the indirect function to perform your lookup tasks on data that is located on multiple worksheets. Imagine that your data is spread across multiple worksheets. Each worksheet in your workbook contains sales data for a different year. Notice that it is the country-wise sales data for each year. Now suppose that you are interested in developing a model wherein when you select a country and select a particular year, you should get the sales for that country and for that year. Is this possible in Excel? Well, watch the video till end and you will see how this is possible. All this is possible by using indirect function nested within other functions. Indirect function is kind of a strange function, but once you get hold of it, it will be very useful for you. With the help of indirect function, you can create dynamic references to ranges and use those ranges as input in other functions. In this workbook, I have two worksheets which contain country-wise sales data for the year 2021 and for the year 2022. This is a simple scenario here, and instead of only two worksheets, I can have n number of worksheets. I can have 10 worksheets, 20 worksheets depending on the situation. Here when I select year 2022, I will get the sales amount, total sales for that year. When I check the total sales here on this sheet and in this table 6389416. So you can observe here in the formula box that I have nested the indirect function within the sum function. Since on this sheet I have the country-wise sales, so I have developed one more model, that is I select the country here and I select the year and I get the sales amount for that country for that particular year. So here in this case I have nested the indirect function within the SUMIFS function. Before proceeding further in the video, let me make few things clear. First is on these sheets, on sheet 2021 and sheet 2022, the data is in the form of official Excel tables. It's an Excel table. If you also want to convert your data into an Excel table, simply select your data, then press Ctrl T on the keyboard and hit enter. It will be converted into an official Excel table. Another point I want to emphasize here is that this data is in a range named previous year, as can be observed from the name box on the top left. This can also be checked from the name manager, which is under the formulas tab. From the name manager dialog box, you can confirm that there is a named range previous year which refers to A2 through B13 on worksheet 2021. Similarly, on the worksheet 2022, there is a range named current year which refers to cells A2 through B13. So far so good, but before we dive deep into all these formulas and functions and develop the models, it's a prerequisite that we understand the basic concept behind the indirect function. Here in this example, there is a quote, "The future depends on what you do today." Notice that this quote is in cell C2. And in cell A2, there is a text string C2. When I use indirect function in this cell, indirect, and I give reference to A2, cell A2, close the parenthesis, enter, and I get the future depends on what you do today. Why do I get this result? The reason is indirect function goes to cell A2. What is in cell A2? In cell A2 there is a text string C2. Okay, so indirect function takes text string as input and then goes to the cell referenced by that text. That means it then goes to cell C2 and gets the value that is in cell C2. That is, the future depends on what you do today. Now instead of referencing cell A2, what if I reference the text string C2? Okay, what do you think the result should be here? In this case, the indirect function takes text string as its input, that is C2. Then it will go to the cell referenced by this text string, that is cell C2. Okay, it will go to this cell C2 here and get the text that is in that string. Okay, the future depends on what you do today. Okay, the indirect function also takes range as a reference. Observe here that when I go to the name manager again, there is a range named quote and it refers to cell C2 on this tab named indirect basic. Cell C2 on on sheet indirect basic, it's here. This cell is named code. So when I use range name as an argument in the indirect function, the indirect function will get the value from that range. So let me use indirect function here and use the range name as a text string, that is code in quotation marks because it's a text string. Enter. Here you will observe that the indirect function gets the value from that range. So this is the basic concept behind the indirect function. Now let's use the indirect function to dynamically calculate sum of sales for different years when our data is located on different worksheets. In this example, I have nested the indirect function within the sum function, and look at my result. When I select the year here, I dynamically get the sum of sales. Let's check the amount. For year 2021, total sales is 6095253. Let's check it here. For year 2021, sum of sales, you can check it from the status bar here, 6095253. We will start from the basic. To calculate the sum, we will use the sum function. Then we have to reference the range. For range, we will give the table name. For example, we will select previous year here. We will select this table previous year. Then we will select the column. It is the sales amount. Okay. Then we will close the square bracket, then close the sum function. Press enter and we will get the sum for year 2021, and when we check it here, it is this amount. Okay. Now we can also use the indirect function to dynamically get the sum of sales from the previous year table. So let us do that. Let's use the sum function equal to sum, then use the indirect function, then select the table and column name, close the indirect function, then close the sum function, press enter, and we will get the sum of sales through indirect function. This here, previous year sales, we want it to be dynamic. That means we want it to be current year sales when we select year 2022, and we want it to be previous year sales when we select 2021. How do we do that? To achieve that result, we will use the VLOOKUP function equal to VLOOKUP lookup value. Our lookup value is year. We will select the year, comma, lookup table, comma, column index number. It's 2 here, and we want an exact match, so we will select false here. Close the VLOOKUP function. Then we have to add the column name also. We will use and here, double quotation marks here, then sales, because the column which contains sales is named as sales. This should be in square brackets, so let's put square brackets here, press enter. So this is the previous year sales. Now when we select 2002 here, we will get the current year sales. So this is how we can calculate sum of sales for different years when our data is located on different worksheets. As you can observe here, we also have country-wise sales. Now let's go a step further in the video and see how we can add one more criteria, that is country, to our model. That means when I select a particular country, for example Russia here, and select a year, we will get the sales amount 658820. Let's go to 2022 and check the sales for Russia. Sales for Russia, it is 658820. It is the same result which I have here, 658820. Let's see how we can achieve a result like this. First of all, let's make our table references dynamic. That means when I select year here, I will get the country range and sales range dynamically for that year. Look at the result again. I select year 2021 here, and this changes here. It is previous year and column name, that is country, and previous year column name, that is sales. So it is dynamic here. To make it dynamic, I have used the VLOOKUP formula. You can observe here in the formula bar, it's VLOOKUP. Let's use the VLOOKUP formula. Our lookup value is this year. To make it dynamic, we will look up for year, comma, table array. It is here, this lookup table, comma, our column index number is 2. Okay, it's 2, then we will get the exact match. We will use false here, close the VLOOKUP function, then we will concatenate the column name with this. We will use the AND concatenator, then quotation marks, double quotation marks, square bracket here, country, close square brackets, close the quotation marks and press enter. Okay, I have done the same for this. Sales range also equal to VLOOKUP. Our lookup value is year, it is B3 here, comma, table array, it is this. Note that I have typed this manually, this table array here, no formulas in here, comma, column index number, it is 2, comma, we want to get an exact match, we use false here, close the VLOOKUP function, concatenate the sales table here, use the AND concatenator, quotation marks, square bracket, sales, because the column which contains sales is named as sales. That's as simple as that. Enter. So now this is dynamic. When I select the year, this will change. Okay, current year. So that means when I select 2022 here, it will be current year here, and when I select 2021, it will be previous year. Okay, alright, so far so good. Now how do I get the sales amount in this model? For that, I need to nest the indirect function within the SUMIFS function. That means I will use SUMIFS here. SUMIFS, then I have to give the sum range. Either I will directly reference the range in that particular table, or I will use the indirect function here. Indirect, comma, reference text. Since we want to add the sales amount, so we will reference this here. This indirect reference will go to cell I3 here. What's in I3? It's previous year sales. That means it's a range name here. Then it will go to that range and get the value from there. Okay, and that value will be an input to the SUMIFS function. Similarly, now I have to specify the criteria. My criteria range is country range. So I will again use the indirect function equal to indirect. Then reference this text here. What does this mean here? It means indirect function will go to cell H3. It will go to this cell. Then what is in H3? It is previous year country. Now it will go to the range specified by this text string, specified by previous year country. It's a text string here. Indirect will get this text string, then get the range referenced by this text string. Previous year table and country column. It will get the country column. It will be as an input to the SUMIFS function. Then again we have to specify our criteria. Our criteria is country name. It's here. Close the SUMIFS function. Press enter and we will get the result. Now select any country here. For example, Angola. Select the year. Sales amount is here. Let's cross check it. 505990. Let's go to year 2022 and country Angola. 505990. It's here. In the final part of this video, let's get rid of these helper tables by nesting the VLOOKUP function directly within the index function. So how do we do that? Simply copy the formula from cell H3 and paste it directly within the indirect function. Copy it, then go to cell C3, then go to the formula bar and paste it within the indirect function at the place of cell H3. Finally, let's copy what's in I3 and paste it directly within the indirect function at the place of I3. Press enter and the magic is here. Now we can safely delete these helper tables. Simply delete them. And now let's check the amount. Let's select the country, Cape de Verde for example, select the year 2021, 306098. Let us check the amount. Here it's Cape de Verde 306098. That's it. Finally, a word of caution here. Note down that indirect function is a volatile function, and volatile functions have this property of causing performance issues. This is because every time you make any change in your worksheet, all volatile functions in that worksheet will be recalculated and any formulas that depend on those volatile functions will be recalculated also. Still worse, if you have multiple workbooks open and you make any change in any worksheet that doesn't have volatile function in it, still volatile functions in all other workbooks will be recalculated, and that definitely will cause performance issues. So keep this in mind when using indirect function in Microsoft Excel. I hope this video was helpful. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Keep supporting, subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching.